Victor Wembanyama had a 5x5, the second in his career, Tom, on Thursday night. 25 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 blocks, 5 steals. Only 3 players in NBA history at this point have had more than one 5x5 game. Hakeem Olajuwon had 6 in 1,238 games. Andrei Kirilenko had 3 in 797 games. And Victor Wembanyama has had 2 in 76 games. So Victor has had 1 every 38 games. AK-47 had 1 every 265 games. Hakeem had 1 every 206 games. Over under, Tom, of 49.5 5x5s for Victor Wembanyama in his entire NBA career.
Basically a half season's worth of 5x5s. I'm going over.
Yeah,
I'm going over here, Kev. And
how much over? Give me a number. Let's just say he stays healthy for 12 years or so.
I think he will threaten to average a 5x5 for an entire season. So I would say over 100 in his career. Look, he's 20 years old and he's already got 2. Okay. When you look at the 5x5s in NBA history, the average age is 26.8. He is 6 years ahead of what the normal 5x5 is normally seen at. So he's 6 years ahead of schedule. Okay. He's 7'5". He hasn't filled out completely. He's fully, skilled. How many guys at 7 feet tall can do the things he was doing on Thursday night? It was the Utah Jazz, and man, Walker Kessler, a poor guy, just trying to defend Wemby. It's been tough. As one of the guys who have like a great shot blocking number, but sometimes he just gets destroyed at the rim. The Blazers have had like 7 top 10 dunks already last 2 years against Walker Kessler. Feel bad for the dude, but Victor Wembanyama, it's about time. His Chet Holmgren performance was, it was a dud. I gotta say it. It was bad. And Kev, I picked Victor Wembanyama to be the MVP this year because I thought we would see this every night. The 5x5 or threatening to do 5x5 every single night. It hadn't happened. He looked overwhelmed by the moment against Chet. Chet completely outplayed him, and OKC will outplay just about anybody in this league. So look, Vic doesn't have the same supporting cast that Chet has, but still, it was great to see this performance, a bounce back performance from Vic. And I got to tell you, I know you said earlier that Sochan has played really well this season and he's got good numbers, and maybe that's, a jewel of a trade piece or a trade package. I think they need to move him to the bench because Victor Wembanyama, that is his kryptonite, playing with Sochan. He does not have the spacing. He does not have the same sort of versatility that they can unlock Victor Wembanyama in the half court. In that game Thursday night, with Victor Wembanyama on the floor with no Sochan, they were 47 points. The Jazz had 23. 47-23 run when Victor was on the floor and no Sochan. That is the trend over the last 2 seasons. When you look at Victor Wembanyama's scoring and his production, forget the plus minus, scoring and production this season without Sochan on the floor, he's scoring 33 points every 100 possessions. So like per 75, it's probably like 28 points every 75 possessions. Without Sochan on the floor, he has a 64% true shooting percentage. Compared to when Sochan is on the floor, it falls from 64 to 49. His assist numbers with Sochan on the floor is 3.5 every 100 possessions. With Sochan off the floor, it's 8 assists every 100 possessions. They're like a solid team when they don't play with each other, but when they do play together, it just doesn't work out. And I hope Popovich decides, hey, Keldon Johnson, let's promote you into the starting lineup and let's get a little bit more spacing because Sochan isn't it, and he can anchor that second unit, and they really need Devin Vassell back.
Look, I'm not against starting somebody else over Sochan. Keldon Johnson, I don't think he's the answer. To me, Keldon Johnson, I'm out. I want to trade Keldon Johnson. You're not the guy that I thought you would be.
For Giannis. Yeah.
For Giannis. Or anybody for that matter. He's just not that guy. He's not improved defensively. He loses weight. He's still no good defensively. Sochan, to me, I blame Pop here. I don't think he calls enough plays for Wemby. I don't think there's enough structure around Victor. There's too many moments where they just throw him the ball at the elbow, gets doubled. It just doesn't have any flow or rhythm, their offense in the half court. They feel like a team that doesn't have the structure that we know from the Spurs teams that were so great for so long. And maybe that's by design for Pop. Maybe Pop, mastermind, one of the greatest coaches ever across sports, wants these young guys to figure it out on their own as part of a learning process. But it sure would be nice to see a bit more structure and a bit more creativity in the half court when you have Sohan, who, yes, he has these flaws, but he's 6'8". He can play make a little bit. He can screen. He can play in the short roll. I just don't see a lot of creativity with a piece like him with Victor Wembanyama. So yes, I agree that Victor performs better operating in more space. But I also think Popovich can do a little bit more creatively to get it to work with the pieces that he has. More than anything else, though, they do need Devin Vassell. They need Vassell in that starting lineup. He unlocks so much for that team, and Vassell is so underrated. He's a great shooter. He's a great pull-up shooter. He can run pick and roll. He's a smart cutter off the ball. He just adds a completely different ingredient that nobody else on that Spurs team has. Now, with that said, though, I think the other thing they have to do, you think they needed to, move Sohan to the bench, have him operate on bench units. I think that's okay. With the bench unit, they got to get rid of Zach Collins. Unless they intentionally are trying to just absolutely hemorrhage points to help their tanking odds and lose more games, which I would not blame them with this draft class up top. I would not blame that at all. They need to have Mamu come off the bench over Zach Collins. Mamu's better. Yeah. He looked great on Thursday. He's looked great every time they've given the team every time the team gave him chances. Zach Collins is a negative. He is a zero. He is a complete detriment to this team's chances of being competitive. Not that Mamu's changing everything. Maybe moving Sohan to the bench helps the bench. Having Mamu play over Zach Collins also helps the bench. And they need Devin Vassell back. I think the Spurs have a chance to get back in the play-in. I do. Yep. I do. They're just going to make some tweaks.
I do too. I think if they make the playoffs or are in the running for the play-in and get the 8th seed in the West, I think there is going to be Wemby MVP chatter. I do. Because of the stats he's going to put up. But the offense has to be better. You're absolutely right. With Wemby on the floor, their offensive rating is 101. 101 in today's NBA. Can you imagine all the other 29 head coaches in the NBA looking at that figure? Like what I would do if I had Victor Wembanyama in my offense, who's a constant lob threat, who has skills off the bounce. He has passing skills. He was doing behind the back passes, no look passes on Thursday night. The things that he can do offensively. I know defensive player of the year candidate every year till the rest of his days, right? But offensively, if you have Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, and Victor Wembanyama on the floor, you have to imagine that you can do better than 101 offensive rating. Greg Popovich absolutely deserves it. He's the GOAT, right? He's the GOAT. But we can also say that this team should be way better than what they're showing.
They got to be. It's on Pop. Pop's got to get more creative. I want to see some more wrinkles to that offense develop over the course of the season. You have Chris Paul as your point guard. You're going to have Devin Vassell back soon. You have Victor Wembanyama. Can we see some creativity? I'd love to see it.